Sean Vaca pressed his way through another morning, following the cracked sidewalks like a programmed warehouse robot. It was another gray Tuesday in November, and it was time for the weekly junior college faculty meeting. The meeting weighed heavy on Sean's faded dreams. He had already burned through his allotted absences during the first semester. The darkness that haunted his soul seeped through every crack and line in the wood-paneled faculty room. Dr. Khan was the president of the Jacksonville State Junior College. He began the session with his usual monotone rants about tight budgets and complaining parents. The senior faculty members made some attempt to be interested, but their heads soon began to nod like a bobblehead on the dashboard of a lowrider. Sean's head bowed low, and his long dark bangs hung like a curtain to hide his web-surfing eyes. The crack of a ruler struck the table and broke through the static noise. The loud pop startled him and Sean's smartphone fell to the floor. Mr. Vaca. Mr. Vaca. What are your thoughts on the budget crisis? Does your job not mean anything to you? Dr. Khan demanded. Sean composed himself, brushed the hair away from his eyes, and half-heartedly replied, yes. Dr. Khan shook his head and asked, yes what? Yes to all. He said with a dramatic flair while waving his arm. Well then. Thank you very much, young Mr. Vaca, replied Dr. Khan sarcastically. He continued and said, thank you for volunteering to lead the local writers' club at the library. What? Wait, I never agreed to babysit any wannabe writers. You said, yes to all, mocked Dr. Khan as he mimicked the previous dramatic expression. Dr. Khan felt that the junior college could stand some positive community involvement and had intended on asking for a faculty member to volunteer. This opportunity for publicity was too good to let pass. The tension in the room snapped like an old guitar string as the other faculty members tried to hold their snickers and smirks. It was just another loss in the game of life for Mr. Vaca. He could not imagine what kind of victory was waiting just around the bend. The following Saturday was the first meeting where he introduced himself to the group of amateur writers. The monthly meeting was held in the basement of the old downtown library. The cold room had about 20 folding chairs, set up church style. It was already 10:45 and there was only 3 people occupying the seats. The nervous Mr. Vaca acted busy and wrote his name on the whiteboard. He shuffled a stack of papers that he had brought to hand for a learning activity. Hey mister, we usually start at 10:30, said Jimmy Neekett. Jimmy was a leathery, tan farmer. His starched pressed jeans and pointy boots set him apart from his peers. People called him Little Jimmy, but that did not seem to bother him. He sat on the second row of seats with his green John Deere cap in the chair right next to him. Is this it? Where is everyone? Asked Mr. Vaca as he looked at his phone, and then to the clock on the wall. There are usually a few more folks here, but some people probably stayed home because of the cold weather, answered Susan Graham. She is an elderly woman of some means, wearing a mink shawl and a huge black handbag. The aluminum walker that she used stood beside the last chair in the row and partially blocked the aisle. Mr. Vaca walked to the door and then into the hallway and looked for anyone who might lost or running a few minutes late. He noticed some people had set up display tables for a woodworker's art exhibit. There were many items already on the tables, including decorative bowls, toy trains, and even some musical instruments. When he turned to go back into the room, he accidentally knocked a beautiful wooden ink pen off the table. That's okay, honey, said a very large woman standing on the other side of the table. She was wearing blue jean overalls covering a bright pink t-shirt. You can keep it. I didn't even make it. My pappy said that he found it when he was working on the Panama Canal. It's made from some kind of illegal rosewood. That thing has given me nothing but a headache. I can't even sell it, and I am tired of lugging it around. You will be doing me a favor by taking it, darling. Mr. Vaca studied it closely for a moment, then put it in his shirt pocket and said, well, thank you, ma'am. This is the first nice thing that has happened to me in a long while. He went back into the room and introduced himself. Hello everyone, my name is Sean Vaca. I will be leading this right club for a while, and I hope that we can all learn a thing or two. What do you do for your day job? Asked Paul Crisp as he neatly folded his business suit jacket over the back of a chair. Mr. Vaca cleared his throat and said, I currently teach literature at Jacksonville State. I thought they shut that place down, said Jimmy. Oh no. That school will outlast us all, replied Susan. It is a drain on our economy, and the kids that go there are a nuisance to this entire county, complained Paul. Mr. Vaca handed out the papers that he brought for the planned activity. As you can see, I have prepared examples of famous opening sentences. What I would like for you to do is write a similar sentence that you would use if you were going to write a novel about your life and had the chance to live it all over again. You can begin now. A few minutes passed by when Jimmy Neckett spoke up. Excuse me, Mr. Vaca. I seem to have lost my pen. Do you have one that I could borrow? Mr. Vaca reached into his shirt pocket and handed Jimmy the pen that he had picked up earlier in the hallway. When Jimmy started to write his opening sentence, something very strange happened. The black ink that made the letters on the white paper began to spread like drops of iodine in a bucket of ammonia. It diffused to the edge of the paper, across the floor, and finally to the baseboards and up the walls. The ink that trailed up the walls formed cracks that opened wider and wider. Everyone, except Jimmy, was shocked to see the fantasy world formed right before their eyes. Jimmy wrote about his childhood dream of being a race car driver. The walls of the library basement disappeared and the scene opened up to a huge NASCAR race. Mr. Vaca reached up and felt headphones on his ears and looked at the microphone placed in front of him. He was an announcer on a trackside tower. The race cars roared past in a thunderous symphony and someone beside him elbowed him in the side. Jimmy's opening sentence read like this: the announcers could not believe their eyes. Number 48, little Jimmy Neckett takes the lead on the final lap. As the same moment that Jimmy was writing his sentence, Mr. Vaca began to speak. I can't believe my eyes. Number 48, little Jimmy Neckett takes the lead on the final lap. The pen that Jimmy was writing with had the ability to create the world into whatever he wanted. Jimmy won the race and was ushered into the winner's circle. Paul Crisp, dressed in his business suit, presented him with a trophy and a jug of milk. Susan Graham presented him with a check in the amount of $500,000. Jimmy looked at the check, the huge crown, pretty girls and half-full bottle of milk in his hand and said, "This can't be real." He folded the check and put it in his pocket. When he did, he noticed the magic pen was there. He took it out and noticed some tiny writing engraved on the golden band in the middle. It read, "Stay today, give it away. With this pen live again." He then realized what happened. He could stay in this fantasy life or go back to the life he had before. Mr. Vaca, current NASCAR announcer, pushed a microphone into Jimmy's chest, raised his voice over the noisy crowd and asked, "So what happens next, Jimmy?" He thought for a moment about his wife and kids and even the old farm. He realized that his life was nothing without his family.